In this video I will show you which sports cars depreciate the least and how you can find the best deals at the bottom of the depreciation curve. And that means that we have enough to do, so let's start the video. What's up YouTube and welcome to a new video. Now if this is your first time to the channel, this channel is all about depreciation analysis for various cars. Now over the course of the last year, I put out many videos analyzing many different cars. I analyzed, for example, various Porsches, BMW, Corvettes and many more. And that of course means that for all of the cars which I've analyzed, I gathered many statistics such as the depreciation per year, the depreciation per 1000 miles driven and the forecasted values. Now many of you requested a comparison for all of those statistics and that is why I'm presenting to you today, and I hope I will remember to put some ruffles on the background here, the depreciation leaderboard. And as you probably guessed, this leaderboard ranks the cars based on their depreciation per year and some other depreciation related metrics. Now in this video I will introduce you to the leaderboard, the ranking and the different metrics, and in the future videos I will rank each and every car then again on this leaderboard. Now in the leaderboard I have the following metrics included: the average depreciation, the depreciation in the first year, the depreciation in the last year and the depreciation per 1000 miles. And for all of those I included the absolute and the relative number, so it's easy to compare the cars. Finally then, I also included a curvature measurement, which shows the extent to which the depreciation curve of a car is completed. But I will explain later in the video how that exactly works and how you can use it to your advantage. Now before we continue to the leaderboard, please make sure that you smash that like button, as it really helps to support the channel. I can't stress enough how important it is for the YouTube algorithm that you smash that like button. Now let's have a look to the first leaderboard, which shows the absolute average depreciation per year for a car at this point in time. You can see now that I listed the different cars along the x-axis and that the depreciation per year is listed along the y-axis. If we dive then into the numbers, we can see very clearly that the BMW i8 is leading the pack with an average depreciation per year of $24,414. And we will see later in the video that this is so high for the i8 because that car loses a significant amount of its value in its first year. If we go back to the graph then, but have a look to the other side, then we can see that the Porsche Cayman 987 is depreciating the least with an average rate of $1,221. Now I'm not going to go through each and every car, but please feel free to pause the video and have a closer look to the graph. Also, remember that for each and every car which you see listed here, there's a very detailed depreciation analysis on my channel. So if you want more information about a particular car, go to my channel and check out the video. Now many of you will probably recognize that the comparison which I just showed you is not completely fair, because it's namely a comparison of the absolute values. And of course, a car which costs $200,000 is more likely to depreciate at an average rate of $20,000 than a car which costs only $50,000. That's then also why I made another leaderboard for the relative depreciation per year, and that number is based on the average absolute depreciation per year divided by the average price point in the most recent model year. And based on this relative average depreciation per year number, we can expect to see that the new high volume production cars are ranked at the top, followed by the more rare cars, and that all the way at the bottom we will find the oldest cars which are bottomed out. If we have a look to the numbers then, we can see that the rankings are quite different from the absolute depreciation numbers. The Giulia QV ranks now first with an average depreciation rate of 19.6% per year, and the Ferrari 360 has the best rating of 3.7% per year. Furthermore, we can see that most of the newer cars depreciate on average between 7.5 and 14%. Now when we are looking to these numbers, it is key that we keep in mind that these are averages. If we for example look to the depreciation curve of the QV, we can see that over 3 years the average depreciation rate is $15,423. You can however see that the depreciation rate in the first year is a lot higher than this number and that it is a lot lower in the last year. Furthermore, you need to keep in mind that the age plays a crucial role here. The more model years there are available, the lower the average depreciation rate tends to be. Now I also constructed leaderboards for the first year's depreciation, the last year's depreciation and the relative depreciation rates for both of them. We will now have a quick look to those, but after that we will have a look to a very interesting measurement, I think, the curvature measurement. Now if we first have a look to the absolute depreciation in the first year, we can see again that the i8 is leading the pack and that the Porsche Cayman 987 is doing the best in terms of depreciation. In fact, it is this highest drop in the first year for the i8, which is responsible for the highest absolute average ranking of the i8. If we look to the relative numbers, then the graph looks a bit different. And this relative number is again based on the absolute depreciation in the first year divided by the average price for the most recent model year. And if we have a look to these numbers, we can see that the i8 is still leading, but that it is followed by the F-Type R and the Giulia QV. There is, however, happening something, at least I think, extremely interesting at the other end of the graph. So let's have a look. We can see namely here that the relative depreciation for a GT3 in its first year is extremely low. And that is especially noteworthy if you consider that it's one of the newest cars presented here. Let's also have a look now to the leaderboard for the depreciation in the last year of the depreciation curve of each car, but I'm going to skip the absolute numbers and we will have a look immediately to the relative ones. You can see now on the left hand side that the Caymans are still depreciating significantly and that also the depreciation rate on the Giulia QV is still high. Furthermore, you can see on the right hand side that some cars are entering the positive territory. And this means that the average value of those cars in the last available model year, so the oldest model year, is higher than the average value in the second last model year. You can see, for example, that we have the R8 V10 here, the V8 Vantage, a 997 Turbo, the R8 V8 and the Porsche Cayman 987. Now I can show you a zillion different rankings like those and a zillion different depreciation numbers, but it starts to be a bit difficult to compare the cars. After all, if you made it till here in the video, you're probably interested in depreciation numbers and you would like to find out if the car you would like to buy, or perhaps the car which you already own, is going to depreciate a lot or a little. And that's why I came up with the curvature metric, which measures the extent to which the depreciation curve of a car is completed. And typically, this value will be between 0 and 100, where 0 means that there's absolutely no bottom yet in the depreciation curve, and the depreciation curve in fact is still a straight line. And 100 means that the depreciation curve is fully completed and that there's a bottom in the market. Note by the way that even though a car can have a score of 100, there might be still some significant depreciation in the newer model years. If you namely imagine your typical depreciation curve which goes something like this, then it means that there can still be a lot of depreciation in the beginning of the curve, but almost none at the end. Now in some cases, it can even happen that the score will go above 100, and this means that the market is fully bottomed out, and in addition to that, you could start to see some increase in the prices. Now that sounds damn good if you ask me. So let's have a look to the leaderboard. If we look to the graph, we can see that the left hand side is dominated by Porsches and that these have a completion rate between 0 and 20%. And note that this doesn't say anything about the height of the depreciation rate, it simply says the extent to which there's a bottoming pattern in the market. The relative depreciation rate for a Giulia is for example higher than it is for the Caymans, but the market for the Giulia is more bottomed, as we can see in the graph over here. We can see namely that the completion rate of the depreciation curve is around 60%, where it is more around 20% for the Caymans. Now if we start to go then a bit more to the right of the graph, then we can see that we encounter the more older cars, which of course have a stronger bottoming pattern in their depreciation curve. You can even see that the V8 Vantage, the Turbo, the R8 V8 and the Cayman 987 cross the bottoming threshold of 100%. In other words, we can be quite certain that for those cars the depreciation rate is completed. Now this of course doesn't mean, and I can't stress this enough, that you can buy any of those cars and expect no depreciation. You namely first need to find out where the car which you are interested in falls on this depreciation curve. And therefore, if you will use this metric in combination with the actual depreciation curve of a car, you will find out if there's a bottom in the depreciation curve and where you should buy on the depreciation curve. And personally, I think that this combination will help you to find a good deal in the market, but also to figure out if the timing is actually right. Purely looking from a depreciation perspective, you would namely like to buy a car at the end of its depreciation curve, which also has a curvature metric very close to 100%. This namely means two things. First, you are buying in a market which is actually very close to bottoming and completing the depreciation curve. And second, you're buying at the right part of the depreciation curve, namely at the end, where the depreciation curve is actually bottoming. Note by the way that this approach works very well in the markets where the prices tend to decrease when the car gets older. It works then also less good for car markets which are already in a bottoming phase for a while, so that only the end of the depreciation curve is left. For these cars, such as for example the Ferrari 360, the depreciation line is namely completely horizontal. You can then also see from the graph that there's no bottoming pattern in the market, simply because the depreciation curve, or actually depreciation line, is horizontal. Now then, you might think, dear four-wheel trader, those are a lot of nice numbers, but I would like to know which car markets are, as of today, in a favorable situation for me? Where can I find the cars which depreciate the least? And that's of course a very good and a very valid question to ask. And I also still need to do some work on this myself, but let me show you quickly what I already gathered. At the graph on your screen, you can see now age on the horizontal axis and the curvature metric on the vertical axis. Furthermore, you can see that there are several blue dots, and each of these blue dots represents a car market. One dot is for example the R8 V8 market, and one dot is the market for the Porsche Caymans. Now, as you probably expected, we can see that there's a very strong relationship between the age of a car market and the extent to which the depreciation curve is bottomed. What is however quite encouraging, I think, is that from as early as 5 years, car markets can already have a strong bottoming pattern. And this of course means that you can drive a relatively new car without losing too much on it. And as I said, this is still a work in progress, so you will see more about this in the future. Now, I also made all of the numbers which you saw in this video, but then for the depreciation per 1000 miles driven. I think however that is a bit too much to cover all in this video. In line with that, I think that overall it would be nice to have one ranking which combines the depreciation per 1000 miles driven and the depreciation per year, just to keep things simple. But also that is still a work in progress, as I still need to find out and think a little bit how I'm going to combine all of the rankings into one overall ranking. In any case, remember that if you saw a car in this video for which you would like to see the full depreciation analysis, that you can find that analysis on my channel. And while you're at it, make sure to smash the subscribe button, as there will come new depreciation analysis each week, and each car will be ranked in this leaderboard. As always, a huge thank you for watching, and I see you next week for a new depreciation analysis.